Welcome back to Gaming News with Spoons, the segment on the channel where we talk about video game news. We've got a lot to get through today, so sit back, relax, and let's go ahead and hop right into our very first article. The first thing up that I want to talk about is The Last Remnant getting a remaster for the PlayStation 4. One of the games from the Xbox 360 that I was absolutely looking forward to was The Last Remnant. This was going to be a very mature-rated video game from Square Enix, as this was also supposed to be a game that Square Enix was building up to be something that might be able to contend with Final Fantasy. Though The Last Remnant never took off successfully the way that they did due to being in an era of times where video game developers who made the Japanese RPGs didn't exactly get a lot of praise for their games, The Last Remnant unfortunately only gathered the status of a cult classic, but it was an amazing game nonetheless. With this recently being removed from Steam to be able to push sales for the remastered edition, it does baffle me that the PlayStation 4 is the only game console that has been announced to be getting this. We are also not getting the remastered version on Steam as of yet. Whether or not this is just a timed exclusive to the PlayStation 4, or if this is going to be only exclusive on the PlayStation 4, this is the only definitive way that you are now going to be able to play The Last Remnant unless you have a copy of it on your Xbox 360. But I'm excited for this. This comes out December 6th, 2018 worldwide, so mark your calendars and check out this game if you haven't done so. One of the biggest news that came out of the Nintendo Direct that was shown this week was Final Fantasy on the Nintendo Switch. Now, Square Enix went above and beyond to announce quite a bit of titles coming to the Nintendo Switch. We have Final Fantasy VIII, Final Fantasy IX, Final Fantasy X, X-2 HD Remaster, all making their way to the Nintendo Switch. They will be available to be able to play portably, and I could be wrong. I will pin a comment down below along with the timestamps in this video so you guys can kind of check out what's going on there. But if I'm not mistaken, I do believe that all these mentioned games are coming to the Xbox One as well. Another addition that they announced to this would be Final Fantasy XII The Zodiac Age, which I do believe also said that it was going to be released on the Xbox One. This is awesome that Square Enix is releasing not only all these games, but Final Fantasy XII in particular. I feel that Final Fantasy XII is the most underrated title in the franchise. It gets a lot of unwarranted hate for not really any good reasons, and its story is one that I really enjoyed. It was deep, it was engrossing, it was dark, and I really enjoyed its characters, aside from the fact that maybe Vaughn was one of the only few characters in Final Fantasy XII that I really felt like didn't even fit into the game. It is what it is, but Final Fantasy XII is still an amazing game, still a great Final Fantasy, and if you missed out on it on the PlayStation 2 or the PlayStation 4, you have an Xbox One or a Nintendo Switch and never got a chance to play it, I highly recommend picking this game up. One of the biggest surprises that came to me was Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles getting a remaster on the PlayStation 4 and the Nintendo Switch. This was an interesting title for me, as it was a game that I could never get behind. I really never liked playing this game alone, particularly having to carry that little thing all the time, and it made the game kind of boring for me. It was something I never really enjoyed. It was fun though when being able to play it with friends. But unfortunately, the technology at the time, we didn't have the ability to hook up to the internet like we did with our Nintendo system. So Nintendo and Square Enix thought that this would be a really great idea to be able to take your Game Boy Advance, plug it in there, and essentially use that as the controller and eliminate the menu on the screen so you could play with a friend in co-op. It seemed like a really cool idea, but unfortunately, if you were like me, you didn't have a Game Boy Advance growing up as a kid. You didn't have a link cable that you could play. You didn't have multiple devices in your house to play this with others. So I'm definitely excited to get in here and play this game. And I do have some friends I'm very interested in playing this game with. So maybe when this game comes out, the Power Up Mushroom and I are going to have to hit this up and non-D and really see just how much fun this game actually is with co-op. That would be so much fun. Next up was another game released or announced, Chocobo's Mystery Dungeon, everybody. And this is a Chocobo Dungeon inspired game. For those of you who are familiar with the Chocobo Dungeon games, you know what to expect. This is said to kind of be a follow-up to Final Fantasy Fables Chocobo Dungeon, which was on the Wii at the time. A fun game, but nothing groundbreaking, nothing exciting. But this game is coming to the Nintendo Switch and the PlayStation 4, a game that perhaps I will take a look into picking up. Now, one of the biggest surprises that came to my attention was World of Final Fantasy Maxima. This is also coming over onto the Nintendo Switch as well, and though this is a definitive addition to that, and you're able to kind of upgrade at that particular point, I feel like at this point, at least the DLC was fair. The game felt complete enough that I could kind of warrant maybe picking up DLC at this point. But one thing I do have to bring up and mention, I'm glad that this game is just getting some praise, getting some talking about, because World of Final Fantasy was such an underrated game from 2016. In all honesty, I enjoyed World of Final Fantasy more than I did Final Fantasy 15, and that is saying something. It wasn't that Final Fantasy 15 was a bad game, it felt more complete. It was a lot more fun, and I loved those traditional turn-based elements. It really had that gotta catch 'em all feeling to it, and I thoroughly enjoyed the game and its characters. It was such an underrated little gem on the PlayStation 4, so I'm glad it's going to the Nintendo Switch to get a second chance, a breath of fresh air, to let that game reach out and find its audience. Now, now moving on to the next thing I want to talk about is Daemon X Machina. When Nintendo first showed this off at E3 during their presentation during E3, it was a game that I thought looked visually really cool, but it never really captured my interest. But something about this new trailer, putting a face behind what was the mask, the combat, being able to move out of your mech and go out and explore this world, something about this game really took me by surprise. This game actually looked really, really cool. It is a game now that I am thinking very seriously about picking up. It is a title that I think may just very well be a cult hit on the Nintendo Switch, and maybe a game that might be able to get its own franchise. That would be really cool. There's some really prominent members working on this, and I am excited to see what else this game can potentially bring. One of the biggest surprises coming from the Nintendo Direct, though, had to be GameFreak's new game, Town. Now, GameFreak is known for making their Pokemon games and the emphasis that they've put on that franchise over the years, but Town really seems to be taking a step away from the Pokemon, the monster kind of capturing, and taking more of an interesting RPG approach. From the sounds of what they were saying in the trailer, it does sound like you're going to be able to take villagers and have them kind of help you throughout the world as you go through to explore to save it. The game has a very appealing looking style. It has that Pokemon-ish kind of feel that we've kind of come to expect from the 3DS titles, but it looks very different, very distinct. And one of the things I was recognizing during the trailer was how distinct the creature design looked in this game. Coming from the Pokemon company, that is no surprise though. This does look extremely fun. It is a game I'm looking forward to being able to get more information on, and a game that I think I will eventually pick up and play. I'm very happy that the Nintendo Switch is starting to branch out and get some more games just coming to its system. Next thing I want to talk about and briefly mention for those who are into it, it is a franchise that I've never really sat down and played much, nor do I really think I could, but this is Animal Crossing. We did get official confirmation that there is an Animal Crossing game being developed for the Nintendo Switch. Again, Animal Crossing isn't exactly my type of game, and we also did get confirmation that there will be a character from Animal Crossing making their way into Super Smash Bros. So that's exciting news as well. And the last big thing that I want to cover from Nintendo and their Nintendo Direct is, of course, Luigi's Mansion 3. Luigi's Mansion was one of my favorite games on the GameCube growing up as a kid. I can't tell you how many times I made my way through that game, how I had to go through and catch every single ghost. It was such a fun and exciting experience. Unfortunately, Dark Moon on the 3DS, while still fun, didn't carry that same excitement for me that the original did. Its mission-based setup, ways that they set up the gameplay, just never really, it wasn't something that I thoroughly enjoyed, but I'm really hoping that Luigi's Mansion 3 is able to come along and really capture the essence of what made the original one so great to begin with. Luigi's Mansion 3 is set to be released in 2019, and we don't know nothing more than the little bit of reveal trailer that we got during the beginning of the E3 Direct. This definitely is going to be a day one purchase for me because I loved the original game so much. Siliconair reported that the game Resonance of Fate, the Tri-Ace game Resonance of Fate, has been rated in Germany for the PC and PS4. This also comes with our other story, a new Tri-Ace game being shown off at Tokyo Game Show shortly after. So is it possible that we are getting a remaster of Resonance of Fate? That would be something really, really cool. Or maybe we're getting a brand new Resonance of Fate game. Though I still think it's really weird that we got a rating from Germany, unless that game is far into development, a sequel to Resonance of Fate. But Resonance of Fate was another one of those titles that just went under the radar when it came to last generation. It was a very fun game, very distinct, had a very intense learning curve to its battle system, but once you were able to master it, it became a very enjoyable experience. Its world was very different from a lot of other Japanese RPGs out there, and it definitely had a weird sense of feel to it. But if this is just a remaster, that's even cooler that people are going to be able to re-experience this. But if this is a brand new game that is going to be revealed, then it is perhaps something that maybe we'll get more information on. But it does also leave the question, what is this new game from Tri-Ace that we are going to be getting? The last game we got from Tri-Ace was less than spectacular, and this was Star Ocean Integrity and Faithlessness. Though the game was solid, it lacked heavily in the story department and left me utterly disappointed. That was the one game from 2016 that I just felt didn't live up to a lot of the hype. I expected more from the Star Ocean franchise. I expected more from Tri-Ace. Tri-Ace, though, does have a tendency to make quite a few sleeper hits. There is one other franchise that maybe this could be, a new Valkyrie Profile game. Definitely something that I feel like needs to be talked about. Definitely something I want to see more of. As I said, Tri-Ace is part of, some Square Enix has published some of their titles, but they always seem to make sleeper hits, and if you're a fan of RPGs, chances are you've probably played quite a few of their titles. Next up is a game called Dusk Diver, which is coming to the Nintendo Switch. This is being called an action-based game for the Nintendo Switch, where it does look like it's heavily inspired by anime graphics, and nothing wrong with that. I actually really like the visual style of this game, and though the trailer we're watching here doesn't really give us a lot to go off of here, its visuals look good. It is a game I'm very curious about, and it is a game I think I will go in and take a look at once we get more information. Square Enix, along with Studio Italia, I'm probably butchering that name, but that's okay, is working on a brand new game called Project Prelude Rune. This is more than likely a code name, as we really don't know what this game is about, but the studio is headed by Hideo Baba, who is known for working on the Tales games. Now, the art style to this game is probably its most appeasing aspect. This little bit of a teaser trailer we got really showed off the world and the beauty that this world is beholding. I'm very interested to see more about what this game is about, what the gameplay features are going to play like, though with him working on the Tales games, I do imagine this is going to probably play something more along the lines of, say, the Tales games, or something more or less along the lines of Star Ocean. But as more information comes out with this game, we will be covering it on the channel. Next up, Sega Yakuza Studio has announced a brand new game called Project Judge. Now, Project Judge is being called a Yakuza game where you play as a detective and kind of go around and solve a murder mystery or investigate crime scenes. And the idea of that sounds really exciting. One of the games this year I got a chance to sit down and play was Yakuza 0, so I'm definitely excited to hear what this studio and this game is going to bring. The Yakuza franchise has really been a franchise that has caught on with a lot of gamers as of recently, and it no doubt makes sense. This is there's a lot of dedication, there's a lot of great characters within the Yakuza franchise, so I'm definitely curious to see where they can take this brand new series. And plays like a Yakuza game, why break what's not broken? As more information comes available, we will also be covering this on the channel. Next up is Kingdom Hearts 3, showing off Big Hero 6 World. We knew for quite a while now the Big Hero 6 was going to be in the final build of Kingdom Hearts 3. There was some initial concept art shown off quite a few years ago, showing us that Big Hero 6 was going to make its way in there. Of course, we finally got that little bit of trailer. We finally got to be able to see what the Big Hero 6 world is going to look like, and I'm excited because Big Hero 6 was actually a really sweet movie, and I'm very curious to see how they're going to incorporate that in here. Kingdom Hearts is a game next year that I am looking forward to. As it stands right now, that is my most anticipated title for next year. I cannot wait to get my hands on that game in January, and you can expect a full review of that game once we beat it. And I say we because my wife and I are going to be tackling that together, as she is just as much excited to be able to hop back into the Kingdom Hearts universe as I am. And last bit of news, guys, is Death Stranding showing up at TGS 2018. Death Stranding is one of those games that has left gamers frustrated by the sheer amount of information that we are not getting. This is going to have some sort of a stage presence at TGS, so we are going to hopefully get some information as what's going on. I don't mind the cryptic nature that Hideo Kojima is doing with the game. I kind of like the fact that he's keeping it so under wraps, but I think it's time to kind of go in, maybe talk about the gameplay. What's the gameplay going to be like? Is this a horror game? Is this an action game? What's the connection kind of between what we're all seeing? What's going on in this world? If more than anything, I just really want to know, is this sort of a spiritual successor, a combination to what was being worked on with Silent Hills? As it definitely does have that creep factor vibe that's kind of going on. It's a game I want to know more of. How is gameplay going to play? As he said, you can kill your enemies, but it's not necessarily going to get you to do anything, and how much impact that your decisions have upon this world is something else I'm very curious to get to see how Kojima is going to handle. These are all, of course, questions that Kojima has just not answered, and we want answers. We want more. So I'm finally hoping that TGS Game Show really brings us something about Death Stranding, and I will be there to cover Death Stranding because it is a game that is on my radar. You guys have been watching Gaming News with Spoons. Thank you for sitting through this video. This has been quite a long video. As I said, it wasn't something that I had a lot of information that I wanted to go through and cover, and I'll try to stay on top of it a little bit better, but it's been a hell of a week. But you guys have been watching Gaming with Spoons. Be sure to hit subscribe there for me to keep up to date with all of my content. You can follow me on Facebook and Twitter. Links are going to be down below in that description box. And most importantly, stay happy, be happy, game happy. Spoons is checking out.